If there is one speaker that has stood the test of time as the one or a reference, that speaker is a Spatial Audio M3 Sapphire. If you haven't watched our review of that speaker, the link is down below. We also have some sound clips with commentary that are worth checking out as well, all recorded with our Neumann KU100 binaural dummy head. What the M3 Sapphire represents, at least for me, is a step into the future, letting go of past ideas and methods that all suffer from the same challenges, namely, stuffing a dynamic speaker inside a box and dealing with the consequence.
Man, look at this. Dog shit. Did you just step in that on purpose?
The M3 is an open baffle speaker that, when experienced, it redefines what great bass is supposed to sound like and more, gives way to a musical performance that no box speaker can do, regardless of its price. Now, before I chat about the X4, which I'm very anxious to do, I have to address the elephant in the room, which is the X5. As many of my viewers know and have been waiting for, the X5 should have already been reviewed by now, and I can imagine it has caused confusion as to why that hasn't happened and what the heck is going on. Well, the answer is pretty simple. With the ongoing effects from COVID and supply chain issues, some of the parts and technology for the X5 has been incredibly hard to get, and because of this, Clayton has to make some adjustments to the direction and focus on his current offerings. Granted, this isn't unique to just spatial audio, but it's been a problem for many, if not all, the hi-fi manufacturers that I communicate with on a daily basis. Does this mean we will never see that X5 review? No, not necessarily. Things are finally shaping up, and it looks like we should be able to move in that direction pretty soon as well. So yeah, that's the deal with the X5. But if there is a silver lining to this story, that silver lining, my friends, is the X4, which I gotta say, if the M3 Sapphires or X5 ever had a fight on their hands for what I'm listening for, well, let's talk about that. The X4 uses the same studio-grade AMT as the X5, which is modified to be dipolar or open baffle. Right away, this sets it apart from the Sapphire, which uses a dome tweeter that is not open in the back. Even more, the AMT is loaded in a waveguide, which saves the day in rooms that are challenging because of controlled directivity. Just below the tweeter, you will find two 12-inch spatial audio open baffle woofers, and yes, they are indeed paper cone, and even more, hear me, might sound better than the drivers found in the Sapphires.
What did you say?
But more on that in a minute. The X4 comes in 3 standard finishes, which is black, white, or graphite. But let's get real. What we want, say it with me, is Ultralam. This material, made in Germany, is incredibly dense and the perfect material for speaker baffles. Made of stacked layers of German beechwood, the X4 finish is stunning, but more important, serves a function worth chatting about. Speaking of dense and, more important, rigid, the platforms are now machined aluminum and are incredibly stout. When putting this speaker together, it was clear that what we have is an evolution and another step forward in refinement from spatial audio. The speaker looks incredible with the new rounded sides and refinements that I've already mentioned. So yeah, the X4 came to play, and here is the thing. It's truly plug and play. Unlike the X5, which does serve a purpose for those who want to use FleeWatt amplifiers and still crank into triple digits, the X4 is completely passive. The rated sensitivity sits close to the Sapphires, right around 92 dB, and are 4 ohms. If you are curious about my breakdown on wattage and sensitivity, check out the video that we did a while back where we ran the Sapphires on just a few watts with no problem at all. Okay, enough with the rambling. How do these guys sound and what are my first impressions? Well, to be frank with you, they might be better than the Sapphires.
No way! That's great!
Which is messing me up in playing games with my audiophile head. For the last 2 days, I've been experimenting with different amplifiers and combos, and yes, even speaker cables. While I'm still experimenting and working on it, the rig right now consists of my Enyos Zenith using Rune, which is going to the Benchmark DAC 3. From the DAC, we are going into the Benchmark HPA4, which is running completely balanced into some goodies sent from Burson Audio, the Timekeeper 3X mono blocks. Firing up my playlist comprised of a number of tracks, the first thing that stood out to me with the X4s is their sense of space and presence. While still sounding natural, they seem to take what the Sapphires already do well and add this spark, this extra little something. The X4s offer air and extension to the top end, a little more speed and agility to the vocals, and a razor-like image around every single note being played. Even more, while more resolution is indeed being offered, nothing sounds forward, bright, and even after hours of listening, it sounds incredible. It seems to me that Clayton has mastered the balance of resolution and seems to understand resolution and detail is a double-edged sword. Not enough leads to warm milk and knitting with grandma. Too much of it leads to nails on a chalkboard. Just the right amount leads to a sonic experience where you can't help yourself but by playing track after track after track. So yeah, top-end extension is quite frankly superb on the X4s and might be the king of the hill, but I'm going to need to confirm this over the long haul to be sure. Midband performance and vocals is what I feel the Sapphires do best, and when it comes to the X4, I was curious how it would stack up. Knowing the Sapphires play clean from 650 Hz up without a traditional network is what separates them from so many other speakers. Without question, not having a crossover point where you typically would see one does have a long list of advantages. Well, Susie Sissy Pants, looks like lightning strikes twice, because the X4's AirMotion tweeter is playing from 750 Hz all the way up. What that means is the X4 offers a clear, cohesive midband performance that leaves you with the feeling that every other speaker that you have heard before this is simply doing it wrong. Male vocals have plenty of body and weight, and female vocals sound natural, clear, and precise. Anything else in the midband is just as compelling, whether it's an acoustic guitar, piano, horns, and so much more. Another advantage here is the X4s can play as loud as you want, and it plays clean as loud as you want. Bass. So yeah, here we get to the good stuff. These new 12-inch drivers in the X4s are from another planet. I don't think I've ever heard anything that touches their explosive-like authority in any open baffle designs to date. I was talking to Clayton, and these are more expensive drivers that he's used in the past with older models, and you know what? It shows. The bass, mid-bass, and the punch from the X4s is quite possibly a new benchmark. Granted, it's not all about explosiveness. They also sound refined and offer the texture and tone we all crave and desire in open baffle bass. Last, and a lot of you guys already know this, I have never been a huge fan of AirMotion tweeters. While there has been some exceptions, it seems to me that they have a tendency of calling attention to themselves. With the X4s, This was indeed the first thing that I was preparing myself to be disappointed about, and when that never happened, I knew we had a speaker here that needed to be chatted about across the entire spectrum. Even more, the imaging and staging on the X4, I hate to say it, but it's superior to the Sapphires in every single category. Whether it's their ability to play with such precision or their holographic-like presentation, I can assure you these are going to jack you up if you are into Soundstage like I am. The stage and all instruments in the stage sound holographic and three-dimensional. So yeah, guys, these are my first impressions of the X4, and I gotta say, this might be a slam dunk for spatial audio. I never thought I'd see someone enter the ring and pick a serious fight with the Sapphires, but here it is. History might be in the making with the X4, and I can't wait to see how this all plays out. Now listen, before I get ahead of myself, these are just my first impressions of the X4s, and I do need to spend some serious time making direct comparisons between them and the Sapphires, and I will follow up down the road once I explore some of the differences of the two. So yeah, stay tuned for that, more information, and of course, sound clips with commentary. And I'll see you knuckleheads in the next video.